Okay, now you can go.
Okay. Hello, I'm Riki. So today's topic is demography and employment in Catalonia. The aim of this presentation is understanding the basic facts of that how much scale Catalonia has in terms of macroeconomy and demography, and discussing the characteristic and its related issues in Catalonia other than politics. That is actually we recently watched TV and read news there about the independence of the declaration of Catalonia for the independence. So some people in the Catalonian government, the regional governments, declared independence from the Spain, but it is most of them are related to politics. So I want to think and learn about the more economic and demographic, the other aspect. So after that, we can think about such a Catalonia issue from the new aspects, so that we can begin to think the issues of its independence from aspects of economy and demography, not only from politics. And I'll talk about the basic information and demographic movement, but finally I want to focus on the immigration. Immigration is a very important factor to understand those issues. So now this is the outline. First, where and how Catalonia is in Spain. Simply introduce the location of Catalonia and some province, and the scale, economic scale or population scale and so on. And next, the migrations of Catalonia. Actually, this is very interesting because this is quite different from the Japan. In Japan, it is said that the population of young people are decreasing and old people are increasing. And if we see the graph, it's very straight and not fluctuated. But Spain is very different. Depending on each period, the population growth is quite different. And this is also connected to some economic factor like employment. So it is important to understand the movement and the trend of migration. And next is origins of immigrants. I'm saying about the foreign immigrants. So those immigrants come from the diverse countries. And next is flows of immigrants. How much immigrants come in that period? And next is immigrants by province. This is even in Catalonia. Catalonia is very big area, so there's a very concentrated and urbanized place and the rural place. So we can see the difference between that, among that. And finally, I will talk about the employment in Catalonia. And the first, what is Catalonia? The location of Catalonia is here, the very east and north, and it is next to France. And this is the capital, Madrid. That the professor I told that this is very artificial center, but Catalonia is here. Spain is composed of 17 autonomous communities, which are allowed to have limited autonomy, established in accordance with the Spanish Constitution of 1978. It is built after the end of Franco is the dictators. So after that, the freedom and autonomy are allowed in among each regions. So this is quite different from the province Todofuken in Japan. The next is scale of Catalonia in Spain. Despite of its smaller land area, Catalonia has a large population and makes a large contribution on Spanish economy. Please look at this rate, a bit small, but just looking at the percentage, the land area is only 6.3%, but the population is 16%. And this is the quotation, but I use the data. The gross regional production in 2015 is almost 20%. It's very large. And easily briefly look at other factors. Foreign tourists is also have a lot of foreign tourists come to Catalonia because of the Barcelona. Barcelona is a very famous place. Yes, export. There are some export and new investments is also high because the manufacturing is very developed. For example, even Japanese companies, Nissan has factories in Barcelona. And next, gross regional production. As I mentioned, Catalonia has a lot of production, but this is regarding the region. The Catalonia is the highest and the most productive region. More than Madrid. Madrid is the capital, but Catalonia has power. And this is the just please look at this. This is the autonomous communities that contribute more than 10% to the sales figure of the easily saying that contribution to manufacturing. The Catalonia has a very large power on manufacturing. And next is I'll talk about the province. Population are actually there are 4 provinces: Barcelona, Girona, Lleida, Tarragona. Actually, in each region there are various characteristics, but for now I will say that Barcelona is the center in terms of the economy and population. That as we can see this production and population is in production and population that Barcelona is dominant. Yes. By the way, the total population is almost equal to half of Kyushu population, and the GRP is almost same as GDP of Denmark, so it's very big. The total area is almost equal to Kanto area in Japan. So yes. So now I'll talk about the migration trends in Catalonia. I'll talk about the series from the in terms of series and time. And Catalonia has undergone some migration trends, and the migrations are always important factors to discuss in economy and politics. So first, Catalonia has very long history, but I'll talk from this. This is a period that Spain began to be unified. That time is corresponds to the period of the Columbus. Yes, Columbus finding the Spain is centralized in the Madrid and unified together. Actually, some historian says the Queen king of grandson of Catalonia, and the princess of Aragon married. And this had the and after that here Aragon is includes Catalonia, but after that it began to be unified. So this was the end of the 15th century. Yes, sorry, I forgot to tell you about it. So before that, the Spain and people are aiming to trade about the trade related to Mediterranean trade. But after that, as Columbus found and discovered the U.S. continent, they have the motivation to the Atlantic. So yes, the trend changed, and so I removed the time very later. And actually, there are big four trends from the 18th century. Growth rates have been changing in each period, strongly influenced by migrations other than natural growth. Of course, natural growth can be changed depending on the period, but actually those factors are strongly contributed by migration. And the next, I'll talk about the first one. This is the related to the development of manufacturing in Catalonia and Catalonia. Before that period, the movement of people are not frequent, but in that period, the Spanish, the centralized government put Catalonia and Basque County as a manufacturing area, so many people come to that area. Actually, this is the domestic inflow, not from the foreign countries. The next is the period of World War II and the interwar period. In that period, also the people movement of people are very frequent, but it is still domestic. The next is the under control of Franco. Franco is a dictator. Yes. The government is very centralized. It means that, as I said, the first the autonomous communities are made in 1978. It's the end of after the end of Franco regime. So among the Franco period, they didn't have any autonomous power. So very centralized. So the people easy to move on the manufacturing for manufacturing. The people came to Catalonia. And next, sorry about yes. Yes, this is the very different trend from that. Finally, the people, immigrants came from the other countries like Europe, Africa, and North America. So this is the different because this is foreign inflow. So as this picture, the people from Africa live as a citizen. and have the group. And let's see the origin of immigrants. As mentioned, the growth became the increased after the 2000. This is a European Union, and European Union is white, but this is important. That Latin America. Many people came from Latin America. For example, Colombia, which Spanish is used. But I'll talk later, but the trend actually reduced in the 2010. So it is better. Now it's not in among the trend, but from the 2000 to 2010, it was very big way. And the next story is very small. I put the two periods, 2008 and 2011, but it's almost same. And that means this is the rate that is foreign immigrant population, not the flow. Immigrant population by nationality in Catalonia, people who live in Catalonia. The most, the top nationality is Morocco. Morocco is African, the very north country, and close to Spain. And the next is Romania. And the next is Ecuador and Bolivia, Italy. This is the first EU country, and China, and so on. And Argentina is a country of the North America. South and Latin America. And this is the similar graph, but the competition is not dynamically changed. But the important point is European Union, North Africa, and the South America has the very high percentage. Yes, this is the flows of immigrants. As I mentioned, it became reduced. Before that, the number was very high, but now and until the 2016, it's the 2 years ago. It relatively gradually increasing, but not very high. And the movement that is almost saying that if the national immigration reduced, the Catalonia is reduced. So there's no big difference between the national and Catalonia. And next, this is a similar, but the 2008. And this is the. This means immigrants minus immigrants. So this means there were a lot of immigrants, but this means there are a lot of immigrants. Yes, some article says that those immigrants are young European people who are pursuing more high skill job in the northern Europe countries like Germany or France. But this is only one factor, but there's such opinion. And next, let's see the immigrants by provinces. It doesn't mean that Catalonia is evenly developed, but there's urban place and rural place. Please look at this graph. First, Barcelona province is almost 5,000, but Barcelona municipality is very municipal, urbanized. Is about 1/3, and Hitler is 2/3. And also I will mention one more that comparing the Spain and Catalonia, it can be seen that Catalonia has a very high rate of foreigners compared with Spain. And I also mentioned that it's important to see the Barcelona, not only just Barcelona, but also see the Barcelona municipality around Hitler, because the number is different, 17 and 13, and this is the average number. And next graph is also that even in Barcelona province, the Barcelona place, the population is concentrated, and this is the 200, over 200,000, but the next is less than 1/4. And next one is absolute value of the population growth age in each province. And the interesting thing is that over 80% of population growth from the 2000 to 2008 is by foreigner, not naturally growth. Yes. And in the municipal place in Barcelona, Spanish decreased, so foreign the rate is increased. And next, this is a difference of the younger population. The composition of the foreigners. As I mentioned, Catalonia has a relatively higher percentage of foreigners, and also have the higher percentage of the younger population. It can be estimated that the foreigners, the very young, means that 20 to the 39 foreigners have made the children, and yes, they grew up. So next, we'll think about employment in Catalonia. It's connected with that kind of the migration trend. Finally, first, let's see the easy or with from the unemployment in Spain. Actually, the unemployment rate is very high in Spain. There was a financial crisis in 2008. It was the Great Recession, related to Great Recession. But there was also the financial crisis in 2012. It was particularly in Spain. It was the burst of bubble or high housing price. And even now, it's around 15 to 20. By the way, Japan is about 5 or lower than, more than 5. So it's a very problem. Yes. And actually, employment in Catalonia, high employment rate in Catalonia, it cannot be seen in the correct one, but it can be seen. It's not quite higher than average, relatively better it can be seen. So because this is higher, and this is the middle, and this is lower, and this is middle, so it might be okay from that map. But is it true? I'm curious. But only regarding the average, I think yes. But it may be better to answer no, because there's a big difference between among the nationality. This is the graph. This is the unemployment rate. Sorry, it's hard to see, but orange is foreign, and the light orange is not EU, non-EU foreigner, and the purple is Spanish, and blue is EU, and gray is total man. So we can see that there's a big difference between the EU countries and EU people and not EU people and African people. It's too high, the 40 or 50, but it's relatively lower. It's not less significant in female, but there's still big gap. Actually, you just said less qualified non-European worker tends to work for construction or intensive agriculture, and characterized by lower wages and seasonal. It's temporary, relatively. And regarding the immigrant female, for example, South American immigrants from for example, Colombia or the other Caribbean country, work for the domestic labor or home care children, or home care children or elderly, something like that. This is a similar graph, but it can be seen that there's a difference. Foreign and EU country. Spanish, the unemployment rate is relatively the overall lower compared with the foreign people in EU. But the foreign people not EU is quite high. Yes. And this is the more the specific countries graph. This graph is shows the 4 countries: Romania, Morocco, Ecuador, and Spain. Yeah. Spain is one of the European country. The Romania is not EU country, but EU, but not very economically high. No. Yes. But Morocco is African countries and Ecuador, and we can see the difference of unemployment rate.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Morocco is quite high, and Ecuador high, still high. Romania high, but it might be lower. But Spain is lower. It could be possible that this is overestimated, but still higher. This is written, but this is not the unemployment rate, but income level. The Spanish blue is Spanish and average annual income of the reference person by nationality. So per person, one capita. So we can see that the average foreign income is relatively lower. And this is a similar graph that percentage of households in which every member is unemployed and no pension is being received by countries of origin. In other words, it's not secured in terms of social security. So the Morocco, Senegal is very high, and next Romania. This is all. This can be related to the number of the immigrants, but Morocco and Senegal is higher. Even the Romania is as regarding the number of the immigrants, Romania was second, but the Senegal is second. So we can see the difference. And next is, this is not mentioning the nationality, but in that period the lower income households are increasing. And this is same. Lower household by a net annual income nationality. So what I mentioned, only regarding the average, it can be better, but there's still a big problem in terms of the gap between the Spanish, maybe Spanish and immigrants, but even among the immigrants there's a difference. The conclusion is looking back the aim of the presentation, understanding the basic fact of how much scale Catalonia has in terms of macroeconomy and demography. Catalonia largely contributes to the total population and GDP in Spain. It is it can be also it can be important also knowing about Spain, but it's very useful to understand the issues of the recent Catalonia issues. This has very strong power, like country, rather than just a province as an area. And the next, discussing the characteristic and its related issues in Catalonia are the politics. So the trends of migrations in Catalonia reflect a social event. Yes, reflects social event. Social. And yes. It was not sorry. Yes. Trends of migrations in Catalonia reflect social events. Reflect social events. That means I introduced the movement. That it's correlated to the social the other countries or the domestic politics and influence on its economy. The trend of migration influences on its economy, such as employment. Yes. So actually, there was a lot of the information. So I was maybe too much, but I was hard to choose. But it's at least yes. At least I could introduce the population and domestic demographic factors. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Wow, it took a little bit. It took 40 minutes, but that's fine. This is that's some very fascinating stuff there. Let me let's see. Could we go to page, start with page, let's go back to early, let's go through this. I have questions, start with page 8.
Page 8.
And I just an overview, I think this is a wonderful, this is very, very informative. This is really, this is really very, very fascinating. Some fascinating stuff you've got here. I had no idea about. But I'm just curious, that pie chart, is that for Spain or is that for?
This is Spain actually.
That's Spain.
Yes.
Make sure, yeah. I couldn't tell what that was for. Yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah, I would put a chart just saying that this is for Spain. Because I couldn't tell if that was, but that's for, the pie chart's for Spain.
This is for Spain.
Right.
And this.
Yeah, okay,
yes.
yeah, make sure that you put that.
Okay.
That wasn't clear. Okay,
Okay.
that's fine, it's not that bad. That's page, is that page 8?
Yes.
Right, page 7, could just go to page 7, I just want. Right, oh, okay, that's fine. Okay, let's go to page 11. You know, one of the interesting things about this was if you note the regional flags, go back to the regional flags. Like Aragon, and look at Aragon, for the regions. Go back, you're right.
This one.
Yeah, see that? See how the flags are you see, it's the Aragon, how the Aragon, for Aragon are all similar. See that? They're actually all so it's interesting how 500 years later the flags are still keeping that similarity. And I'm just very curious. And you know that's a typical for Islamic color, the green, isn't it? It's very Islamic green, but it's really the part of Spain that was the last part that was Islamic. And I just found that very interesting. I really noticed how that the color is, and I'm just curious if that's what that's from.
I didn't know that there's an area in Africa.
That's a legacy of an early, even in the early 20th century. The northern Morocco was actually held by Spain, and that was returned to Morocco. But those two islands, Ceuta and Melilla are both. I think one is an island, and the other is attached to Africa, but it's controlled. The Spanish still control it. Morocco does not like it. They're not happy with that. Yeah, they're not happy. I don't think of course, as you know, Gibraltar is part of is the UK, so that the Spanish aren't happy with that. So, okay. That's not an important point, but I was just curious. Go to page 12. 12, yeah. That is it. What is that? What is that percent, or is that?
Sorry.
Or is that numbers? What is that?
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't understand what that growth rate is. It says per 1,000 inhabitants, but I don't know what that means. What is that 5, 10, 15, 20? It's not percent.
Maybe this may be the difference on the source. This is from the 1950 to 2011. They used the data from IMF.
Right. But what is? I don't know what.
This,
do you see the what are these numbers mean? Percentage of what?
Percentage of the population growth.
Annually?
No, average.
Annual average growth rate.
Yes.
Annually? If you had a 10% growth rate for 60 years, you basically have billions of people. That's that.
Average. I guess.
If you had a 20% growth rate for 25 years, it would have China's population or something. I mean, it's just those are huge. You couldn't. I'm just curious. Yeah, I just couldn't figure out what on earth that's referring to. It can't be average. It's got to be. average annual growth rates of population, it's got to be numbers, numerical. It's got to be a numerical increase per 1,000. It's got to be numerical increase, some kind of numerical increase. You might want to just check that. I looked at that and said, what is that? I was just trying to figure that out, but what that meant. And as I say, and you did try to connect 1979 to 2000. That's interesting. It had after there was all that inflow when Franco was dictator, and after after his death, the inflow slowed dramatically until the bubble years. Well, in 2000, I mean, it's a bubble, but that's actually really connected with some of what you talked about. The real estate boom, a lot of that was Spain. You talked about the U.S., but it was really Spain was just as much. At any rate, okay, that's just a point. Okay. Let's see. Page 19. What is page 19? That's total number. That is total number. I think that's what that is, because you have the decline. Yeah, that's the total number. When I first saw this, I said, well, that's interesting. The number is declining, but you showed that later. So I think that seems like okay. That's fine. Total number. And then same with page 20. Right. Immigration from abroad. What? Oh, what does that mean?
Immigration
flow from abroad.
So there was out of the data of each region country.
Right. But what I'm saying is that we know that the number of migrants actually went down. So that can't be the immigration flow from abroad. That can't. You've got a positive number there when we know that the number is going down. Something's not right there. Just go back and look at that. Just go back and just something doesn't quite. Something's not right. Because the reason is, let's go forward now to page 27. No. Oh no. Oh, the immigrant. This. Yeah. You know what's interesting? Let's see. Go to the immigration flow 2008, 2015, and the birth rate. That chart. That's something very interesting here. I think it's the next page. No. Next. Go forward. The one with the no. Go back. Let's see. Go back. Let's see if we find it. It's very interesting. Something very interesting. That's it. The natural increase. The interesting thing here. You look at the migratory balance and the natural increase. What is that? What does all this tell you? Those aren't two separate things.
Yes.
They're not separate. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're actually correlated. They're the same. It's the same thing. The drop in the natural increase is because the migrants have a higher birth rate.
Yes.
The migrants are the ones with a higher birth rate. So look at how so the decline in the natural increase is also a function of the outflow of migrants. See that? That's definitely something is going. That's very interesting. But it's actually, they should be careful when you see something. As soon as I saw this, I said, that's very interesting. But the natural increase is actually a function also of the migratory balance. And if you were going to do statistical analysis, you'd actually want to try to separate that out from the people that the effect of the out migration of foreigners, which had an impact on the net of births and deaths. Yeah. But that shows the impact of the immigrants. That's a very interesting chart. I thought it was very interesting. Okay, next to page 27. Yeah, oh, okay, that's page 29, right, and I really liked how when you said page 28, go to page 28, because I thought it was very interesting the way you questioned, maybe that, I thought that was a very good point you made. It's very interesting, the way you introduced this. Now go to page 29, I really like the way you did this, because you really point out, I thought this was amazing, I had no idea, but this is really, really, fascinating to see that the increase in the unemployment rate was largely driven by the foreign population living in these areas. It's hugely driven by the foreign population, and particularly the Moroccan, and also, as you noted, Senegal, which you did your reporting. Senegal, maybe you got Senegal in this report, which I liked, this is a fascinating tape. This and you go on the next page. Let's see, 31. Yeah, go to Gap. Oh, BE. Let's see, what is that? I'm going to.
This is the basically all the similar.
Right. Okay, go to 31. This is such an interesting. I mean, it's just so interesting. Look at that Morocco. It's just barely a little bit above, and then all of these people become unemployed, and many of them, they don't move right away, they stay. So some of them left and probably went back to Morocco, but many of them stay, and they're unemployed. That's absolutely asking for social problems. It's absolutely, it's got to be having an impact on the social problems. There, this huge immigrant population, Morocco. You had, of course, the terrorist attack, and who knows what, but obviously that's a huge, especially for Morocco. Ecuador. I mean, that's very interesting. The Ecuador I had no idea you had so much immigration from Latin America, but that makes sense. All of this was related to the construction boom. As you pointed out, this is construction. These people came in to work in the construction industry. That's why all these people came. It was driven by the construction boom.
Okay, that's why the brew is increasing too.
Well, the unemployment increases, but I mean, all those people, they came in. All of that influx is related to the construction boom.
Yeah.
Absolutely related to the construction boom, and then all these people lost their jobs. The foreigners lose their jobs. They lost their jobs. Huge increase in the unemployment rate among the foreigners. Whereas you note, certainly an increase in the Spanish, but I mean it's significant increase among native Spanish as well, but not as much. Nowhere near as much. That's just fascinating. I have no idea about this. Yeah, that's so interesting. 32. Just go, watch out your title. That was gap of unemployment. That was the gap of unemployment. Yeah, you'll see that. Just to point that out. No, it's not a big deal, but you saw that. It should be adding income.
Yes.
Yeah, you forgot to change. It's okay. You forgot to change. It's okay. You know that. But it's an interesting tape. Next page. 33 different. There's different ways to interpret this, and this one you have to be really careful because I mean it's an interesting chart. For example, if you're talking about someone from the UK, I assure you, people from the UK or Germany, they didn't move there. They're getting a pension from the UK. So I'd just be interested to check this because you have to be careful about interpreting this. This is definitely people who have no safety net. These people have no safety net. These people have no safety net. These people might just be pensioners, retirees. It might be. Yeah, I don't think that there's 5% from the UK that these aren't like homeless poor people. People don't move from the UK to Spain to be poor. That's not happening. They've got to have these have got to be I would think. I mean, you might want to check that,
Yes.
because these are, but some of these other, yeah, that's, you know, it's just kind of, it's, so you might want to be careful about interpreting a table like that. Although I think that's where you need to make some more interpretation. But it's a bit complicated. But and then next on household income, 34. Households by net annual. What is this? I couldn't understand what this is. Over 25,000 absolute. What is that? What does that mean?
Maybe nothing mentions about the nationality, but maybe I couldn't do the deep interpretation, but
Yeah, I'm looking. I don't understand what that is. Because I'm looking at it, I can't understand what it is. Because 2011, 2012,
yes.
that looks like there's were there more people? But yeah, I don't. Yeah, be careful about a chart like that, because if you struggle to interpret it, I wouldn't put it up. Or you might want to just
yes.
be careful. I mean, it is the chart up. Yeah. Does that mean that lower income? It could be.
Blue.
Yeah, but I don't know what the absolute figure means. Households by net, I don't understand it. I don't understand, especially the one on the right I can understand more than the one on the left.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine. I mean, it's just I couldn't quite understand that table, and I think you don't. You're struggling to understand it.
I only just saw I only saw the surface of that.
Yeah, be careful of putting a chart like that if you don't understand it, because I couldn't figure it. You don't understand it, I don't understand it. So be careful about putting a chart like that. That's all of my comments. Any other questions?
I think page 6. Can you go?
Okay.
I think 7. Sorry.
Page 7?
7.
Oh, sorry, 6.
6.
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, you mentioned how important Catalonia is, and it accounts for about 25.6% of exports. So I was wondering if they are the highest contributor or in Spain for exports.
It's companies,
Like,
industry.
yeah, something like the region. Or Madrid is probably. I was just wondering.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think, and to, as a related question to your question, is that it would be interesting to have a little bit of the migration, the percentage of unemployed and other of foreigners. What happened to the unemployment rate of foreigners in other parts of the country, particularly in the South? Because the South was where the huge construction boom that was related to the tourism industry in the South, especially along the Mediterranean.
South of Spain.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's one thing you don't do here is you don't make that comparison. It's a big. There's just so much information. I'm not. It would be interesting to be able to compare that, but I think what you have here is fascinating. It's a fascinating picture you painted. But that's, I think that's the question is how does all this relate to other, and I have the same, that's exactly I had a similar question about the other information. Good question there. I mean, they answer, you don't have an answer, it's just, you don't have this here. It's just a big, it's kind of a little bit too big. I mean, I think that's the answer. Although it'd be nice to, what you'd want to do if you had more time, would be to have a page like this, and then the rest of Spain, and then the rest of Spain compared with as for each region, how does each region compare? That's his question and my
yes.
question. It's more work. You've done wonderful work here. This is wonderful work. It's just for the big picture, it would be helpful. And if you have more time, you go deeper into it. But this is really is some wonderful. This is very interesting, very, very interesting. Yeah, very. Any other guess?
So I think you said that until 2000, the immigrants were basically from the other areas within the country,
Yes.
Spain. But after 2000, like more foreigners started to moving to Catalonia.
Yes.
Why? Why like foreign people started?
I was. Yes. I didn't have the very correct information, but I will research.
I think you mentioned something. You want to. It's an important question, and for you to be very clear about it. But I recall, and when you go back and look over, I thought that you mentioned the construction industry. I thought you said that in your presentation. I think you said something. So go back when you see the video. I think he said something about that, but he didn't focus on it. It's a good question. You want to. You said you thought it had something to do with the construction industry. I suspect it has everything to do with the boom in construction. If you recall, I did talk about in the lecture in class. I talked about the construction boom, the housing construction boom in Spain. The construction boom in Spain during that period. That was part of. Go back to my lecture notes. I talked about that in that period. So it's very, very likely related, but a very good question.
I think you mentioned that everyone wanted to build houses in Spain.
Yeah. And it looks like a lot of those workers were foreigners. It's a very, very typical thing that happens in construction industries around the world. Are foreigners and construction labor.
In the financial crisis in Spain, what kind of people is most likely to be fired? Do you have an unemployment rate chart showing?
Okay.
Yeah, right.
When did the financial crisis in Spain occur?
Spain. The 2008 is the world crisis, and around this, the 2012 to 2013 is
It's 2008. See how look at what happens. It's right. That's the first point. Is the first quarter of 2008. It's hard to see it. I think that's part of the problem with this graph. It's hard to read, but if that is, make sure you can make that that's legible. But that's 2008 quarter. See right there, that's 2008 quarter one. That's the answer is with the financial crisis.
Yeah, but he mentioned that the financial crisis, particularly in Spain, occurred in 2013.
Yes.
I think he said.
Bubble burst.
Yeah, I'm not. It burst before then. I think. I think that's not correct.
The period. This is a very interesting trend. EU foreigners are most likely to be fired.
Right.
Related to EU foreigner or non-EU foreigner.
Yeah. See the non-EU form, which we know from was like Morocco, especially Moroccan, very Moroccan, Ecuador.
Well, in foreigner in 2013,
Mm.
fire more likely. Here.
Oh, right there. Ah,
Little.
right,
Yes.
right. Oh, okay. Right, that is interesting, isn't it?
Mm.
Right. Yeah. That might be something that's an interesting question. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
That's
really curious
men.
about that.
But look at how women, interesting, the rates are much closer. Whereas with men, and probably part of that is they're just, some of there were, boy, it's interesting.
You foreigners maybe.
It's a different group. The women non-EU foreigners, the male non-EU are probably different people. It's probably different people. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's just just something to think about.
Yes.
No, that's but a good question. Yeah, definitely a good question. Any other questions? Thank you. That was very, very informative. Thank you.